What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast, and thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I have a wicked episode for you. I have Sean of Monarch Studios from Pittsburgh, PA. And I think it's a really good conversation. I had a lot of fun doing this one, so please enjoy. A couple quick announcements. We're doing a big Earth Day fundraiser on Frankie Collective to help Sway Shop make masks for frontline workers in LA. So that's coming up next week. Stay tuned for info on that. And other than that, I hope you're all safe, happy, and healthy during this crazy time. Enjoy the episode.
Okay, welcome to the show, dude. Welcome to Vintage and Stuff.
My guy, appreciate you having me.
This is your second time because you kind of had a guest spot with Rare Vintage episode, so that was rad.
Yes, sir. Yep, my boy Casey. First time in California. Me and you at the Saga.
Yeah. So explain how we met.
So Casey and Jace, PFR. For those listening that don't know first names, I was staying with my buddy in like North Hollywood, which I didn't really understand like how vast California was, and like that Pasadena was so far away from where they were located. So they were like, yo, like
I noticed that the first time I went there, that's where car culture kind of began, because you couldn't get around LA area unless you had a car. So everyone was like driving sick whips back in the day, and that's where fast food started, because everyone's driving everywhere.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're like, yeah, meet us at this like motel. And I was like, okay, yeah, like when will you be there? And I thought that they would beat me there, but like of course I beat them there. So I'm chilling on this bench and I see you coming down on a skateboard, and I'm like, I know this guy. He's gonna have no idea who I am, but like I gotta say something. So I approach myself to you, and you're like, yeah, you selling? Like, you got something to sell? Because, I mean, that would have been my response, too. You're like, who is this kid?
Well, you stood out, dude, because you had a Supreme duffel bag. It looked like full of shit. I think you were wearing, like, some dope vintage tee at the time, and you're sitting on the bench by the lobby, and I'm just like, okay, this is not a coincidence. Like, this guy's here for a reason.
Yeah. It just was funny to me because it was just like, your reaction was exactly what I would have done if I just saw like some kid come into my shop. Like he was like waiting outside. You're like, you got some shit to sell? I was like, yeah, you can go through my bag. And so then like I ended up following you back to the back end and met Zach and Wes for the first time back there, and we like went through my duffel, and I showed you basically like what I was so proud of to bring to California, which was cool.
You had some heaters. You had that. Didn't you trade Zach the Aliens movie tee for some stuff?
Yeah, I traded him the Aliens movie tee he gave me a David Bowie and this really cool U2 all over print, which I haven't seen any of them before. So it was a cool trade. Nice. But yeah, man, I mean, like, it was just so surreal because I had watched the Stash Raiders episode, so I knew what the motel looked like. And when I like walked past that pool and I was with you and like all that shit, like I hate to like, I mean, it was cool.
It was cool. A moment, man. It was for sure a moment. And that's kind of how we roll at the Saga. We like bro down. There's a lot of vintage heads that stay there now, and everyone's like moving. It's like prom party. Everyone's going room to room and like seeing what everybody brought and shooting the shit and watching bad
Bro,
TV
talk
shows.
about that story about like you were telling me how back in the day, I don't know if you've talked about it on here before, how you used to like basically sell out of that parking lot and set up a flea market.
Yeah, so I mean, we would do appointments in that back parking lot. We'd roll the truck up. We'd get all the stuff set up. Does it sound really windy to you? Can you hear the wind or no?
I can hear it, but it's not bad.
It's not bad. Okay, cool. So yeah, we'd roll the truck up and then we'd get ready for the bowl, and that's where we would do appointments, and we would set up like a mini flea in the parking lot essentially. And we did this for like 10 years, man. It was awesome. And you'd get like random people showing up and be like, "Ooh, hey Sonny, what you got for sale here?" And like what it'd be like, they'd pull out like a 6 shirt and they'd be like, "Oh, how much for this one?" You'd be like, "Oh, that's 200." They're like, "Whoa," because it's like just some random grandma staying at the hotel or something. But yeah, so we used to get a lot of people coming to the hotel. It was fun. We'd have like everyone drinking beers in the parking lot, go for a swim afterwards. It was a lot of good times. And then basically what happened was the hotel kind of, they didn't switch owners, but I guess the owners took back control because they just had a lot of staff there, and the staff was really sweet, man. Hope they don't listen to my podcast, the owners. But their staff was rad. They took back control. They kind of got rid of a lot of people, and they kind of like tightened up the ship. And then I guess because we were technically selling product out of that hotel, they were like, you can't really be selling product out of our parking lot anymore. So then we had to move it to storage, which you came to the storage, and it's like, it was kind of similar vibes, but it was cooler when I was at the hotel because we could chill, we could skate in that parking lot. I don't know. It was good vibes.
Would you set up racks like in the parking lot, like literally like just like a flea market?
Totally.
Yeah.
We would have racks out because basically the Rose Bowl setup consists of like not tagging. We don't tag, but we have to basically hang everything.
Yeah.
Essentially, like you hang all the product, throw it on a hanger, get everything hung, then you throw it back in boxes and get it in the truck for the flea market. And then as we're doing that, people can just shop, you know?
It's your setup is like, it's extremely extensive. And I think that at the time it was just, I was almost like visually overstimulated with seeing products. Like I wasn't thinking about like what goes into, especially, I mean, what everyone does. You have a big booth though. And like when I went to the unit at first and I left and then went to bowl and then came home and I was thinking about it, I'm like, man, like it's a grind for like that solid 24 hours, like,
oh, it
or
is,
more.
dude. We always say the bowl takes like years off our life every time. You know, you get up at 4 a.m., you have to empty like a 20-foot U-Haul truck and hang all this product and then pack it back up and go move it into a storage unit again. You know, we're trying to figure out better systems. Then when you have days like February when it rains or some shit happens, and it's like that adds a whole nother dimension to it. You know, it's like dirty and it's like heavy labor, man. It's hard work.
Yeah.
You know, and we do it because we love it, and it's like, you know, obviously we make money. But it's definitely a grind doing a booth the size that we do. That's why you see most people doing smaller booths, you know, like just a few couple racks, because you can like whip that out in no time, right?
Yeah. I mean, the number one thing that I just wasn't ready for coming from the East Coast is like how it's divided into clothing, and then the other one is antiques, like trinkets, and there's some clothes and whatnot, because it just was like so wild to see the pounds. And I mean, number one, price point. Number two, just the mass quantity of product that to me was always so rare. Like, for example, like, I don't know, David Bowie shirts are a good example. People ask me for Alanis Morissette shirts all the time. Things like that, where like you see like 20, 30 of them at Bull going through the racks. And like back home, I maybe only seen like one or two my whole life besides online, you know? So I think that was
your perception of it, right? Because you're like, you know, it's like this holy grail thing. And then you're like, well, I went to the Rose Bowl, I saw 5 of them, you know? And you're like, well, okay. But it still is hard to find because it's like you have a mass amount of people scouring to bring that much product to the bowl as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I see exactly what you mean, though. Like, it was the same for me. I got super overwhelmed the first time I went.
Well, for me too, like at the shop buying when people bring stuff in, like I would say yes and buy almost everything that came to me. And now, especially like once we've gone through quarantine and whatnot, like I've found myself being a lot more selective because it's like I'm not going to overpay for something just based off of the fact that like I don't know. Before I saw like everything as almost it was a unicorn, and now I'm like, you know what? It's gonna come to me along the way eventually. Like you don't have to like rush.
Yeah,
You
like
know?
now is not the time to be overpaying for something, for sure.
No, no.
Okay, so let's bring it back to the beginning here. So
Yeah, sorry.
you are Shop Monarch. No, that's cool. Um, you are Shop Monarch, which is that your actual store name? What's your store name?
No, Monarch Studios is the name of the
Oh yeah,
shop.
Monarch Studios. Okay.
Monarch Studios,
And you are Pittsburgh, PA.
Pittsburgh, PA. Yes, sir.
Born and raised?
Born and raised. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so I feel like on the podcast we've been spending way too much time on people's history, not to downplay your history, but give us like give a shout out to like how you got into the game and like a quick rundown of like the beginnings for you.
So my business partner, best friend, everything is my girlfriend, Madison, and she got me into vintage. So we've been dating since our junior year of high school, so 10 years now.
Nice.
And we went to a flea market. She took me to my very first flea market in Ohio. Back then, like we kind of have talked about, but snapbacks. That's what I think a lot of people started a lot of people in vintage. So she would be looking for clothing, and I loved old advertising. So I would buy gas cans, signs, just old anything that was American, and then hats. So that kind of jump started it.
You're in a great zone for that. Like the East Coast, New England area, all that area has tons of old Americana. Like a lot more, I feel like, than California. Like California might have like more Levi's and different things like that, but
T-shirts.
Yeah, T-shirts. Definitely for advertising, that stuff's in the East Coast.
Yeah, man, and like I love books, signs. Really, at the end of the day, like I have more fun almost looking through an old Life magazine than I do looking at T-shirts. So, pennants, things like that, and then like true American vintage denim, workwear, Carhartt, obviously Levi's. But then basically from there, I started going super hard with Pittsburgh stuff because I would go to Steeler games, Pirate games, and like I started finding this gear and wearing them to games, and like my friends and everyone was just like, were just basically like, where are you finding this? Like, my dad probably has it in my closet, but like he hasn't seen that for years. So I did that all throughout college, high school and college, just for fun. And basically for 8 years,
so you still weren't were you selling in college?
I didn't sell anything. Like literally, I think in 8 years of collecting, I had maybe sold 30 pieces.
Okay, wow.
Maybe sold 30 pieces. So like the whole time it was just my style, like what I was known for, and the same thing with my girlfriend. And then when I graduated college, I started working for a bank for like 2 years. I left that bank, started working for a startup. And just that entire time, I started to realize what I was truly passionate about at the end of the day, and who my friends were in the industry. I'm real good friends with Casey, who runs Rare Vintage. I met Jason in Vegas, but like, I don't know. All these people that I gravitated towards, were in vintage. So basically it would be like a year ago now, I left my full-time job. And when I quit my job, again, man, like I honestly had only sold maybe, 60 pieces at that time. So it was a pretty big leap from like collecting, being passionate about it, towards actually moving towards selling. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about like Pittsburgh as you're in like a heavy sports town, man. Like
Big time.
Pittsburgh is a wicked sports town. And I feel like, obviously during that whole snapback movement, sports kind of ruled what we did in vintage. We were always looking towards sports, and it wasn't even you had to be a fan of anything. It was kind of like you would gravitate towards certain teams and everything, but you know, a lot of these kids who got into vintage were just buying the hats to like match sneakers or what
Oh
have
yeah.
you, and like for the look of it and the style, and they would collect certain. It was like you collected a style of snapback, like a splash or a shark tooth, but you didn't. It wasn't like some people might have collected just teams, but more so people collected styles and they collected all the teams.
Yes.
But like, you know, talk about Pittsburgh as a sports town, man, because like I feel like it's one of the better towns.
Man, I mean, it's literally like Sundays. There's no one in the grocery. It's my dad always jokes around. It's the best time to go grocery shopping. My mom's the same way. Like, no one is at any. They're just glued to their TV or they're at Heinz Field.
Having a barbecue at home on the patio,
Man, oh
watching
yeah,
TV with the fam or with your boys.
yeah, and like tailgating is huge. There's a really good diner called Pamela's Diner, so we go to Pamela's. Me, my two uncles, and my best friend. They've all had season tickets basically my entire life. So go there, go down to the games, tailgate. Like, I mean, the Steelers are a religion. So are the Penguins. I'm not as big of a Penguins fan, but hockey is obviously huge here. In all honesty, man, like Pittsburgh is a baseball town. Our owners are horrible. The Nottings, they basically have run the team into the ground. But like what the last time I forget what year it was when we went to the wild card game against the Reds. I was at that game, and I've never in my life seen a more electric crowd than the baseball game. I've been to AFC Championship games, you know, Steelers Ravens games. It's a baseball town. Like it really is. It's just, I mean, sports in general, like you said.
Totally,
and like,
totally. It's a wicked
yeah, it's
town.
in the
I've
water
only
here.
been there once. My experience, well, I've obviously went there when I was a kid, but my experience in my adult life was we were selling a ton of military, and we were scouring all over America to find like military surplus dealers.
Yeah.
So I flew into Pittsburgh and I drove like an hour south, I think, to some town. I don't even remember the name, to a surplus dealer. And I dug like army pants and army shirts for like 3 days straight, just loading like container with this stuff because we had customers for it. And then I came back to Pittsburgh and I had a couple days, and I remember just doing like a shout out on the F as in Frank account. That's when like it was kind of like the height of the snapback movement, and I could just do a shout out, and then kids would hit me and be like, "Yo, I'll come meet you and take you around." So I wish I remembered this person's name, man. But they like took me to the swap meet. I forget, I don't even know the name of the swap meet, but I bought a bunch of stuff
Is it
there.
Trader Jack's? Was it Trader Jack's? Does that ring a bell?
It was like inside of a building, but it looked almost like it was like an old movie theater or bowling alley or something weird.
It may have been Cheswick too. It could have been. It
might have been Cheswick.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a couple of them that aren't around anymore too. That like you could have went to back in the day.
This one was inside, and it was kind of like in a weird like abandoned mall movie theater type scenario. And I was like, this is sweet. Bought some stuff there. I think I went to this kid's house too because he was like, I got a bunch of stuff you can buy. So I went to his house, bought some stuff.
How old was he?
For me, this was well, not for me, but this was probably eight years ago at least. And he was probably, so 8 years ago, I'm like 33. He's probably like 25 then.
I'm so intrigued. I'm so intrigued now. I have to find out.
And he said he was like homies with anyway, I'll finish the story. So anyway, then I was like, is there any sports stores to take me to? And he took me to some sports stores. There's one sports store in a mall.
Okay.
In Pittsburgh, and they still had hats, and like they didn't have a lot of the best stuff because obviously like him and his friends were going there for years and buying up all the hats. But like for me, because we were buying bulk at that time, I still found a bunch, and we bought out a bunch of stuff. And then I'm pretty sure I found like these weird Mighty Ducks hats in another spot there in like a kind of a bodega dollar store. I bought like probably like 100 Mighty Ducks, like almost like painter hats, but those sold well for us for a long time. And Pittsburgh's rad. I wish I did more digging there back in those glory days, you know?
Definitely, man. Yeah, I mean, it just kind of to bounce off that. First off, there was a shop called the Sports Deli, and they had everything you could ever imagine. Like all, back in the day, the Shark Tooth splashes, scripts, like
that might have been the place I went to, man.
It probably
was it in a mall?
Was it in a mall? Kinda. I thought, honestly, can't really remember. There was one that was downtown, and then the sports deli. Casey could talk more on that because he's older than me, and he would go there more. I kind of have just heard stories about it.
Okay.
But I would go to the one that was downtown. But the thing is like, again, this is during like the Mac Miller, Wiz Khalifa era, and we talked a little bit about Mac coming to F. and Frank. But he was so instrumental towards like just snapbacks in general and like 90s style and bringing that back in Pittsburgh. And like, for example, the Nikes on my feet video was like the first time I ever saw a Supreme sticker, which is crazy to think about now, but like they were very ahead
What year
of
was
their
that?
time. Yeah.
What year was that? Do you remember?
I think 2011, 2010, 2011.
Hold on one sec. Hey, I'm on a meeting. It's alluded to like that whole zone of Mac Miller Wiz Khalifa. Like, how did that? You grew up there, man. Like, you lived through that. Like, do you remember when they were just like popping up at like random bars playing shows, or how did that kind of evolve?
2007, I saw Wiz Khalifa open up for Bone Thugs and Harmony. It was my first rap concert ever. Yeah. I still have the ticket for it, and it was at a place called Club Gravity in Cheswick, PA. It was an old roller rink. Couple hundred people. The craziest concert ever, and my girlfriend and I could like speak on it. We were in Alderdice for a Mac Miller Wiz Khalifa concert. Literally like.
Okay, now, so you were saying it's like it was like you're super tight up. You could step up to the stage or something.
Bro, the stage was maybe 2 feet tall, like, to be totally honest. And Wiz's DJ at the time was on this janky laptop that like didn't play. It could not play the instrumentals, and he was like salty, so he ended up doing these freestyles. Like, he did these like old freestyles from back in the day that he knew growing up in like Hazelwood. But there were literally like, honestly, man, 30 people there. And then I went to Central Catholic High School at the time. Mac went to Winchester Thurston before he switched to Taylor Alderdice, and he used to sell mixtapes outside of Central Catholic. It's funny, like when he first became like pretty like poppin' and had probably the first time we had seen like rapper weed, he had this like crazy purple weed, and he was selling it for like $80 an eighth. It was hysterical.
Is that a term, rapper weed?
Nowadays it is.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was the first time we saw like,
right?
like California weed. Yeah.
Okay.
But he, like, some of my close friends he was really good friends with, and that was honestly, man, like, we never actually knew each other, but when he passed, I mean, I got calls from so many people because it just felt like he was just one of us, you know, like growing up in Pittsburgh. And the thing about Pittsburgh, man, is like, it's hard to make it in this city. Like, people really, it's a dog eat dog town for sure. So like, people didn't support him or Wiz until they left, and then they would come back and like they were a star. But it's interesting,
man, because everyone else is trying to make it too, right? So that like all the peers are like, well, why did he make it and I didn't make it? You know, it's like, well, he hustled harder, right?
For sure. Yeah, I just think back on it, man, and like, even me, like, I was a big Mac fan after Kids, but like, I mean, I feel bad for hating on anything because I look at him now and he was an amazing artist, and like, I don't know, it's just one of those things. Like,
for me, looking on the outside, like, you look at that whole era, like Wiz Khalifa, you know, obviously put Pittsburgh on the map with Black and Yellow and really like repped for the city hard. I mean, same with Mac Miller, but Wiz Khalifa seemed to go like went from 0 to 100 into like a mainstream pretty fast. Like, I don't know. And yeah, he went to superstar status, and he signed with like a major label from what I know. I don't really.
Yeah. Big on Warner Brothers.
Yeah. So there you go. Where Mac Miller like was more like backpack rapper style, and kind of at that beginning heyday of like backpack rap, like YouTube star. More so like he came up through like the ranks of social media YouTube, where like Wiz went like, I'm signing with the label, and they kind of worked together a bit, but it was more these different paths, but both like repping Pittsburgh hard.
Dude, it's crazy too, because like what we're doing right now with like videography and like through through YouTubing, and that was the origins of all of that. Like Wiz Khalifa had day-to-days back in the day that he would do on YouTube, and we would watch like every week. And it's funny because as a kid, you're like thinking about, okay, when my parents were growing up and like the internet boom happened and like people were making money off of that, and then you saw Instagram, and like for a while Instagram to me was just like a filter application, like to put filters on your photos, and now look at what it is. Like it's crazy to think about where everything has taken us, you know what I mean? Like and it's evolved drastically.
Yeah, 100%. And they were at the forefront of that with like Macklemore too was kind of like that,
Yeah.
like self-produced backpack kind of rapper. And he never signed. Macklemore was a G because he never signed a label, and he kept all his money. There was a couple years where he was like up there in the top 5 highest paid. Like when Thrift Store came out, he was up there with like Dr. Dre as like one of the highest paid rappers.
That's crazy.
Because he didn't pay a red cent.
Good for him though.
To
Good
the
for him.
labels. You know what I mean? And that was like, and that kind of like was a cool turning point where like somebody could do that. They could go on YouTube, blow the fuck up, make all that money, cut the label right out. Like you couldn't do that in the 70s, you know what I mean, or
No.
the 80s. Like you could never get the radio play. You could never get big enough to do it.
I mean, and then now it's SoundCloud and everything that's kind of transformed from that with the younger generation. Did you ever do any work with Macklemore talking about thrift shop?
No, like he came to our Toronto store once, and there's actually I don't even know if my staff knew or he was doing a show in Toronto. This was like just after thrift store era, but he posted like a selfie like stupid dance in like the mirror of my store upstairs. So I mean that's the only time I've never like talked to him. I think I probably reached out to him at that point, but he was already so blown up because he got like self-made so fast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do know people obviously because I have close friends in Seattle because I'm close to Seattle and that had done a bit of stuff with them, but I never did anything with them. I mean, we did more with Macklemore. I mean, not Macklemore, Mac Miller, sorry.
Yeah.
Than Macklemore because he was way more into that like retro vibe and he was totally on it, you know?
What did he get from you? A stadium jacket or something?
I mean, he got so much gear, dude. He spent so much money and he bought a stadium jacket. That was a hype piece. He bought one of the starter, it was like the starter sailing sweatshirt. The one, I have the starter skateboard sweatshirt.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a series of starters that are kind of like the Adidas Olympic sweats, you know?
Yeah.
But there's like a sailing one, and they have that like crest with the American Eagle on it. It says like quality American sportswear or something.
Wow.
And there's a sailing one. It's got like 3 buttons. It's like one of those all over sick crew neck sweatshirts. He bought that. Probably like a 24 pack of snapbacks.
Okay.
Probably some other polo gear. To me, like that was so long ago. Those are the 2 pieces though: the stadium jacket, pullover hooded, and then that starter pullover crew neck, or the 2 like standout pieces.
Those are sick. I mean, those are different. I mean, the stadium, but him picking out that the pullover starter, that's a different piece for sure.
It was colorful. It like had a lot of red and yellows on it, like a big like embroidered sailboat on the front.
Have you ever seen another one?
The sailboat one is pretty common.
The sailboat. Yeah. I'm saying the skateboard one.
No, the skateboard one is like rare, dude. I got that just recently and I always wanted it. You know, Kirk from For All to Envy?
Yeah.
Well, you know of Kirk. I don't know if you met him.
I know of him. I don't know him.
Yeah, so he always had that. He had the skateboard one, and he was big on starter because he was like super big in snapback game and stuff, and he had it for the longest time. And I'd seen it, but I recently got it from like a Vancouver homie who
that's dope.
Another dealer in Vancouver who had it, and I was like, just listen, bring it to my warehouse, come through, I'll trade you whatever you want. Like, I would have bought it too, but I ended up just trading, which is sick.
Speaking of, I have that Grateful Dead skateboard tee for you down the line.
Nice. Which one was it?
He's wearing it says Pro Shreds, not Pro Keds. They're Pro Shreds.
Oh, sick.
And then like it says like break the rules and like all these like dope. There's like graffiti in the back of it and chalk. It's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you mainly at this point like anything that's skateboard, surfing, not surfing, but like more outdoorsy, and then Patagonia? Like, where do you draw the line with your collections, personal collections?
I've started to get more picky with Patagonia because I find a lot of it, and unless it's something like it's got to interest me now. Like as you collect more of a certain category, you're like, okay, seen that, have that, that's not that cool, and then you're kind of like become more picky, right? So I'm pretty picky with Patagonia now of what I actually pay out for and buy.
Yeah.
With skate stuff, like I still am pretty open on like if we find, I don't like seek it out and go like hit up kids for it unless it's something I really want. But I'll pretty much keep anything 90s, 80. I'll keep anything 80s, 90s, even early 2000s. I'm keeping for skate. Surf, I'm getting more picky because there's so much of it. Bands, I have like a select list of bands that I'll keep. But even that, like sometimes I'll move them because if I get a tee that a band that I really like, but someone's gonna give me $500, I'm like, fuck, okay, I gotta move it. Like,
Exactly.
I can't be that guy, and like I don't think the market fluctuates, and it's like I might miss that 500, goes down to 200, and then I'll have to wait 10 years before it goes back to 500. Like I don't, whatever. It's like you got to kind of play that market a bit too, right?
Man, and how I am at the end of the day is like, I mean, I think about what I actually genuinely wear. And it's like, it's amazing having these pieces. I really do appreciate it. It's an awesome aspect of being in this business. But like, at the end of the day, man, what I wear on a day-to-day basis is Pittsburgh pieces, some band tees, Grateful Dead, a couple rap tees I own. And then it's like just cool graphic tees, like good shirts that fit me nice and are comfortable.
It's really, it has to fit. So half the time you find shit that is like, that resonates with me. It doesn't fit right. And like, I'll wear like a weird shirt just because it fits really rad,
100%.
If I find a good vintage white tee like that, I rock this all the time because like this Primus, like I have a bunch of Primus, but this one fits me good. I love white, like and it just works, and you got to find those right tees that work for you. But so much of my shit doesn't fit. I think with the Patagonia, like I'm kind of like there's a lot of it, and I'm kind of like putting together the archive and like the timeline, and like with that I'm kind of more into it because I see the evolution of it, and also I post the videos and I do like sharing this stuff and talking about this stuff because I feel like you're right. If you have it sitting in a box, what good is that doing to anybody, right? Like it's got to be shared, it's got to be like seen, it's art in the end. It's
absolutely
like let's show it to the world kind of thing.
Two-part question. Number one, actually the first time me and you ever had any interaction, I was driving through West Virginia and we stopped at a thrift shop. My girlfriend found a pair of lined Patagonia shorts in the women's section. I threw a picture down on the ground. I threw them down on the ground, took a picture with your name next to it. And you messaged me and said, yo, are those for sale? Have you ever seen, they're like almost the Lululemon, like the Nike, like they're lined. Like
shorts.
You don't need to wear underwear with them.
But like a stiff cotton or like a...
They're like nylon, and then the inside is like almost like a silky, like I can't even explain it. It's like the inside is, have you ever worn those shorts that like you don't need to wear underwear with?
Yeah. It's like the bathing suit have like a underwear liner type thing. No, I don't remember, man. I don't have a pair.
I'm going to send you a picture. Like, you can't have them, but like they're unbelievable. I'm going to wear them all summer. I just found them in a bin. Like I'm going to wear them twice a week. Like they're unbelievable.
So what's your grails, man? What pieces are you actively looking for? Or are you actually looking for anything at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, I'm kind of at this phase in my life, and with now the online, like branching out to doing online and being able to reach more people, I want to start doing more collections in the shop and also online. So this weekend, actually, Chris invited us to do the virtual flea market with him, 1980 something. So I'm going to drop like a 25 piece Grateful Dead collection on Sunday.
So for just interlude here for people that don't know who are listening, 1980 something Chris out of LA. He's been doing the virtual flea market. He started the virtual flea market wave, and I give Chris mad props because he starts many waves. This guy, Chris, is like a marketing fucking genius. And I think he does it. It's organic with him. Like it's kind of like I have a funky idea. I'm gonna roll with this shit, and he does it, and it turns out cool. And like Stash Raiders. I don't know. I just feel like he's always one step ahead, and he's just a smart, genuine guy who's out for the community. So check out his virtual flea markets, and then the WWVSE kind of tagged along on that vibe and did the virtual fleas, which they're doing on Fridays or Saturdays. I don't know if they're going to continue it, but if you see virtual fleas pop up, it's probably spawn from Chris.
For sure.
So you're dropping.
I hit him up immediately when he announced that, and I was just like, man, like I don't even think he saw it, but I just wanted to. I'm like, I do have mad respect for people that are just willing to put themselves out there, and like throughout life in general, if you have an idea and you go with it, and you're genuine behind it, and your heart's behind it, something good is going to come from it. So I respect anyone that does that. Like, no matter what field you're doing, just put everything you have into it and believe in yourself, and you're going to go somewhere with it. Totally. But in regards to grails, like I'm hoping my homies have like 3 more Nirvana pieces that are like thrash, and I like to wear thrash tees, and I'm hoping that I can get those and my Nirvana can be done. And just like, I'm done buying expensive shirts like that. It would be dope.
Why? So you have 3 that you want, and that's all you need to complete your little.
So I've had like this year. I had it in utero, which I shouldn't have sold, but had it in utero, incesticide, which I sold and I bought back. The memorial T-shirt, which I always wanted, I still have.
Is that is that the memorial one with like the note, the note on it, or?
With his face on the front, and it just has the dates on the bottom. I don't have the one with the back. But here's the thing, man. I'm not like a completionist or whatever you call it. At the end of the day, I collected Bone Thugs and Harmony tees when I started this. Collected them, sold all of them but one. Now it's just if it fits me right. Like if these are the right measurements, if it's the right measurements, and if it's either a Pittsburgh Grail. So for example, it could be like a really random Pittsburgh thing, like from an amusement park. Kennywood is the amusement park here. If it was a Kennywood shirt or like an old grocery store, those are grail pieces to me, like just local stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not really like, I understand and I respect the grail pieces in the community, but having a store, it's more fun for me to get those into collectors' hands that I know are going to appreciate them more than me. Like I sold a dude a really cool Spider-Man shirt today. Cerebro is a massive Marvel collector, and I like being able to like get those to people that his collection is 80% Spider-Man. He told me, like,
yeah,
it's dope, So.
Okay, well, this is a good segue into our T-shirt nerd talk. Okay, we were like DMing the other night, and you have a good knowledge. You seem to be, you got your head in the game.
Appreciate
on the community of like what's going on and what people are buying and what values are, and like maybe like trend forecasting. And so we talked about the Fruit of the Loom tag. The 90s Fruit of the Loom tag is like the grail tag for people when it comes to like Marvel. But what else? Is it just Marvel they want that tag, or is it everything?
I mean, I'm noticing that it's almost everything, to be totally honest. Like, because, for example, like it could be a Stanley DeSantis design, but it's on a Fruit of the Loom tag.
Yeah.
Like Stanley's a great tag, of course, as well. I'm just noticing a lot of the cartoon tees, a lot of the obviously comic book T-shirts. The tag that people want is Fruit of the Loom. I mean, it's a great fit at the end of it. It's my favorite tag.
It's a heavy shirt. I've like
Yeah.
since we talked about that, I've been like kind of like taking notice more to it. Like I personally like the Hanes beefy tag for like
It's a good one.
my my shirts that I wear, but I've noticed like the Fruit of the Loom, that 90s one, it's like it is a heavier weight tee than a lot of them. Like I feel like
Yeah.
it keeps its weight to it, but
We we should weigh them one day.
we should.
I
Dude.
wonder.
Now we're gonna get into weights. It's gonna be like fuck the tag. Now I have to like weigh. Can you weigh the shirt for me?
That's the new dimension that you have to put in the. Oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, this whole like tag thing is kind of new in the young generation. Where like back in the day, you'd be like, you just would date it by the tag, but it was never like the tag added too much value, unless it was like. Actually, wait, I'm kind of tripping on that. That's not true because like Champion Blue Bars had a day where they were like fucking popping off. Like
Yeah.
anything Blue Bar, it could have been the worst print. It was worth money, or obviously Screen Stars have been like sought after from the get go,
For sure.
right? And like different things like that. But I feel like I call it the T-shirt nerdism is growing, and it's getting to like a crazy level where
It's unbelievable.
the
Yeah.
minutia, right? People are like getting into the minutia of it.
Well, also, like, for example, Screen Stars, a Screen Stars XL fits like a large a lot of times.
Well, in
So I
today's
think
standard, for sure, yeah.
yeah, so I think it comes down to like the fact that if it's a true fitting t-shirt, I think it's also plays into the aspect is the actual measurements of like genuinely what they are for an XL for Fruit of the Loom. But I like people message me all the time about stuff. There's two rules of thumb for me. If it's cool, it's cool. If you have an eye for it and you genuinely think it's cool, it's cool. Number two, what is the value of a shirt? It's worth whatever you think it is and whatever you think you can sell it for.
Yeah,
That's
well,
just
not even what you think you can sell, what you can actually sell it for.
what you can sell it for.
Yeah, like you come up with a number, and if you hit it on the head, you're stoked. And the more you play this game, the more you hit it on the head. But
yeah.
the T-shirt at the end of the day is worth what someone's going to pay you for it.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I honestly kind of feel like meeting you in person and like having that conversation we had going to Inspiration and just understanding like how much quantity that you've moved in your life, that kind of like almost changed the game for me, because like I just try and make a good sale. Like I try and make someone happy. At the end of the day, I'm not trying to put it at some number that's astronomical. I want someone to be happy about what they're getting and, get a good deal. But also like, if I'm not going to go too low, like I try and find that middle ground with everyone.
Totally. And like, I talk about this a lot with a lot of different people. Everyone has their lane, right? Like my lane is not top dollar for the most part. Like, like I'm out there wholesaling the grails to people who can get higher dollar value than me. And I'm fine with that because I know like what I paid and I'm happy with the margin and all that shit. And I'm moving a lot of it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm honored that you say that, man. Like, that was a good conversation. We drove from the Saga or wherever we were to Inspiration, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah.
again,
So,
though, man, if you think about it numbers wise, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but think about
totally.
this. If I'm going to sell 10 crew necks and on every crew neck, even if I'm just making, if I make $10 a crew neck on whatever, or I'm selling one shirt I'm trying to get a number that's $100 or $110, and I'm working to get towards that number. Those crew necks are already gone. I already made my money, and I can reinvest that into something and keep it moving. Like, the number one thing I try and tell, like, especially the other thing is, man, when I first started my account and I had all these like grails, I was posting these shirts for these numbers where I'm like, look back at myself, I'm like, you had no business even asking those numbers. Like, you didn't have a market to sell them. Like, whatever it is, you got to build yourself up in the community and like, help other people eat for you to eventually eat along with them. Like it's a grind and a half to get to that point. But like, once you're there, you're able to make the moves you need to make.
And it builds loyalty, man. Like, you're getting a little less margin, but that one customer could come back to you 15, 20 times and buy
Hell
different
yeah.
things. And now it's like that customer's value over their life as a customer to you is like way more valuable than the extra 10% you were going to make or 20% you're going to make on that one sale.
For sure. Well, I'm
Um,
sure we may talk about it a little bit, but like
yeah.
that's my biggest like pet peeve is when I ask someone a price on something and they'll give me like, well, it's listed on eBay for $110 and it has 5 watchers, so I would take like 105. And I'm like, where's your rationale between this? Like, that's all it is. I mean, it
Yeah.
is what it is at the end of the day. I understand people that may have a full-time job and this is a side hustle where they keep things at higher margins and they just sit them there. That's another aspect of this game, but I roll at a different pace,
Yeah. Everyone, like I said, everyone's got their lane, and you just got to get in where you fit in, man. I think you've figured it out. Okay. I want to go into, well, you just mentioned a pet peeve, and
Yeah.
let's hear some other pet peeves, man. What else you got?
I mean, if it's a Grail t-shirt and like you're posting it in thrift for like for sale,
What do you mean posting? Oh, in the Facebook group?
like people that like their entire fee is just like photos in the thrift.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
When I see that and it's like when it'll be like I can see a price tag for $2.99 and you're asking $40.
Yeah, totally.
I understand it, but my whole thing is like I'm almost more or less. I think we also kind of talked about this, but like I have a smaller business. I actually bring home and like clean and wash every single garment. So when I see someone that's out there that's doing that, that's already taking the lackadaisical route of like taking that photo and posting on Instagram, are you like, am I going to get that shirt with that $2.99 tag on it for $40? Like, I like to see a little bit more of a hustle and a grind between that. So that's a little bit of a pet peeve. I'm not too like harsh on like anything, to be totally honest. Like, I don't get mad about like people will.
Yeah, fair enough, man. That whole like taking the pic from the thrift or in the bins or wherever they do it, like from like finding it, like I get it, and we used to do it on. We never did it in like our sources of vintage, but we did it at digs. Like there's old videos of us digging where we're like doing dead stock digs, where we knew we were gonna blow that out. It was like nobody can come here again because we just took it all. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I guess that's kind of an old head mentality where it's like worrying about people trying to find your spots. I mean, the bins are the bins now. Everyone knows it. The thrift's the thrift. Everyone knows it. It's not like a secret, but it was all, I guess, like you say, it's like you're kind of, it's like almost like a haha, fuck you. I got it for $2.99. Now it's $100. Who's gonna buy it? You're like, well, you just told me to fuck off because you showed me your cards, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like that weird thing. And it's like you showed it almost like this is my hustle, I got this, but then I didn't really show you like all the hard work. I didn't show you the 20 days that I went there and got nothing.
Right.
So it doesn't really build up like the value of that garment by just doing that one little post,
Yeah. I mean, I guess like, I mean, it's a little thing again, man. Like I respond to people like, time is the most important thing you have and you got to value your time. But like, I try and be genuine and, like I really reach out to everyone I can that shows love and like interest in product or like what I'm doing. Like I genuinely appreciate them and it's all love in general in the community. Like
totally. This community is rad. And
yeah.
no, I'm glad you take that stance, man. It's like, I feel that as well. Obviously, I got my pet peeves. Everyone's got a little bit of like things that annoy them, but
Facts. Yeah.
And I think even from the beginning, before before Instagram was even around, when we were selling vintage, it was like that was the hardest thing to convey to somebody. Was like, why is your price $30 for a T-shirt in this store when I can go thrift it, right? And the truth is, like, you can try to go thrift that shirt. I've curated a selection where you found something that resonated with you from a nostalgic standpoint, and it works, and I've taken the work out of it, and you see this curation. You can go try to thrift that one shirt that I have for like 6 months and see if you can find it. You're never going to find it. It is time, like you say. Time is the most valuable thing you have. So when you actually break it down, it's like the value that goes in to what we have is time. Because the rarer something is, the longer it takes to acquire, and the less
Yep.
chances we will acquire it. So that's all it is. There's your value right there. Is the time it takes, man.
That you hit on the head. And man, I will say one thing. I think it's cool being in a smaller town and being one of the first people to really kind of like help push this on the map. I love when someone says to me like, man, I don't know how you like where you find this stuff, and like I really appreciate being able to come in here and pick out still like a $15 sweatshirt, because that's the thing, man. Like if you go to the thrifts nowadays, people, again, this is another thing. If someone's like, oh, the thrifts are taxing and they're charging like $20 for a sweatshirt, it is, I guess, like, yeah, it is taxing when they used to be $1 or whatever. But at the end of the day, like, I'm cool with like sometimes doing that and getting it to like a homie, or like making $5, or like, you know, if you want to have the product, you're not making like crazy margins on everything you have. If you have a shop, especially me in a smaller town, like, you know, I'm trying to get the best that I can get. And that may mean sometimes buying a shirt for $30 and selling it for 30, or overpaying for something and, you know, selling it for $20 less than you paid for. It wasn't a good investment, but at least I'm getting my money back, which I can reinvest into something else. I think that's
And
another
you got to
thing.
look at that, like you got to play that into your marketing, you know, because if you're going to pay $50 for a shirt and sell it for 50 or 60 or 70, it's not a huge margin, but if that shirt can bring people into the store that will become a customer for the future, or just a customer in general, or
Yep,
whatever, or it keeps your curation like on a level that you want it to be at, then sometimes that's worth it. Obviously, you got to make it up on other items, because you got to
for
be
sure.
getting items where you have huge margin. But it's like, I think for people that want to curate very specific things, they have to work on less margin, because they're never gonna. You can't be like, I'm gonna be the Marvel guy and I'm gonna get them all from the thrift store. You're never gonna
Yeah,
get them. You know what I mean?
never.
Or even having like a really good rock T-shirt shop, like you're gonna have to pay up for that selection to have the curation you want, and you're gonna get less margin, but you're gonna like be known for that, and people are gonna come to you when they want a certain thing, and you're gonna be able to sell that product for sure, and also make it up on other items.
Definitely. And man, even like think about it, like when we go and we do like wholesale for something, or when I came to your storage unit and I'm buying a bunch of pieces, like there may be one piece in there that makes my situation good. But then there's some other ones in there, like you said, that the margins, like I buy a wrestling shirt for $30 and I sell it for 45, or like whatever it may be. And you have to kind of work with that and understand, like, that's the biggest thing. And the biggest thing I kind of like get behind is it's all through experience at the end of the day. Like, you're not going to learn from buying 10 shirts and, you know, trying to sell them for max profit. You gotta kind of go roll with your punches. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so before I move on, actually, we touched on the tags, we touched on the T-shirt nerdism, but we didn't go deep enough. Can
No, we didn't.
you got any other like T-shirt nerd tips for us? T-shirt nerd.
I don't
Minute.
want to give you the tips. I gotta stash them.
Okay, well, give us something that like you don't mind letting up. Like, I mean, we know.
No, we can talk about, like, I don't know. We were kind of okay. Like, I think a lot of people have already talked about like anime being, you know, something that's, I mean, beyond the Akiras and the Ghost in the Shells and like, you know, the name brand hype
Yeah.
anime. I think there's obviously a culture in that is going to turn into something that's kind of similar to where like you're seeing the cartoons and the Marvel go.
Because there's so much like early 2000s anime like that we find a lot of it, right? So
Yeah.
you're saying like that's going to become like a bigger market in general, just all anime?
I mean, I don't see why not, because I just think that, like, once you get introduced to anime, like, you start to dive deep. Like, if you become a fan of anime, like, you're gonna do, you know, like, just like movies or whatever it may be, you fall in love with something. So if you're a collector and that starts to kind of, I don't know, that's
do
where
you
I
think
see
that
it.
people are actually going to go and watch this stuff, or you think they're just doing it for the hype of the T-shirts?
Depends on who they are, you know.
Yeah.
Like for example, that Spider-Man shirt I sold today to Cerebro, we've been like talking back and forth because the shirt had a guy on it that was like a lawyer, like an antagonist lawyer in two comics of all of Spider-Man, and we think that's who's on the cover. And that's what's fun for me is like seeing something and not knowing who it is and having to like go dig into the archives of like who the hell is on this shirt. Like,
Yeah, totally.
but I don't know, going back like what you're saying, I don't know if it would just be the graphics or the material. I think Akira Akira and Ghost in the Shell are gonna kind of like,
Yeah. So I've already talked about it on videos like that all over print like green slime color Akira goes for like 2K,
yeah,
or has a couple times. I think I've seen at least a couple listings sold for that much money. Sorry, hold on one sec.
you're fine.
Hey, how you doing? They're back in the corner there. Hey, Mason, your dad's here, or your grandpa, sorry. Just come on down out of the tree. So I got the kids like playing treehouse here in the back.
I love it. Well,
So yeah,
again,
so that's obviously popping, but the other Akiras you're looking at like what, $400 to $700 for like typical.
at least,
Yeah.
yeah. And getting them into the right hands, like there is going to be someone out there on Instagram that's going to pay more than what's listed on eBay, even because now with these raffles, like someone will get 2 Akira shirts, they'll pay $500 a piece for them, and then they'll do a raffle where they make like $2,000 on them. So like, again, it's just what market you have and what you're driving. Like the Instagram
That's
raffles.
an interesting thing to think about. Like the raffle popped up. I know Thrift Lord was going to totally try to claim it because he's going to be like, I started every good trend in this vintage business.
Yeah.
I love you, Thrift Lord, but but you didn't start every trend.
Yeah.
I did a raffle on Frankie like way back, and we did it different. But
Here we go.
Yeah, so I started the trend.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was different because it was like I was only doing designer. I wasn't doing T-shirts.
Okay.
It was obviously, I would still say it's Chris or Taryn that started the T-shirt raffles. Hold on one sec. Your grandpa's right there. Go see your grandpa. Hey, he's right here. Go get him. We have to edit this all up now. But yeah, so they did the T-shirt raffles, but now I see, obviously it blew up, and now people are changing the raffles even. Now they're doing like the first and second prize raffles. So I did a raffle for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 T-shirt.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, well, I didn't do it. I entered one, sorry.
Oh.
And then, because I kind of want that shirt. I don't have any of the...
I do too.
I have like maybe... I don't think I have any Tony Hawk Pro Skater tees. And the second prize was the Boom Boom Huck Jam T-shirt. You know, Boom Boom Huck Jam was like this show that they toured with. And I have one of those. So I actually got second place. I think it was the first time I even like hit on a raffle, and I got second place. Because I've entered like a bunch of Terran's raffles for like, because he had a couple that were like 3 Nirvana shirts or something.
The bootlegs too, like the good ones.
I'm like, I'll enter that shit. Like, what am I gonna lose? $40, whatever.
Yeah. Chris literally just hit me up and was like, "Need your logo, fam, and do you want to go live with me for the flea?" I like saw his thing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Rad.
Yeah, you're like it's like the appetizer. But me and you could talk for like days though, which is an issue, you know. Like
yeah, totally.
Literally. But
I mean, I don't have much more, but I do want to have a couple things to ask still, okay? So
yeah.
Get into like quickly, obviously, how you holding up on lockdown?
Amazing, man. Like, it's been a blessing, to be totally honest. Like, had a lot of support in the city, and you know, I think having a shop, you know, you touch and you reach a lot of people, and like you hope that during hard times, like they'll be there for you. And like I really, like, from the bottom of my heart, I'm like really thankful for people. Like, they've been showing mad love, and like
it's great.
We've been grinding our asses off too, to be honest. Like, getting basically everything almost home from the shop to get rephotographed and prepped for the website. So that was a process. I think, man, just like the word like adversity, like trying to like roll with the punches, like
Yeah.
so it's been cool. I mean, I miss seeing people. I miss like seeing my grandma. But yeah, how you been, man?
Yeah, I mean, we've been good, and obviously, like the whole shop shutting down was like kind of a hard thing to take, and then
Yeah,
people getting laid off, and then like that whole week leading up to like the shop shutting down was just kind of scary, like because we were like
terrifying.
should we shut down? We don't know. Like the government hasn't said we need to, but what are we doing? And then my staff was kind of freaked out, so I had all these like weird. There's a couple days where I was like, like come home from work going like, what the fuck? Like this is so next
Yeah,
level. Like I didn't sign up for this. You know what I mean? But once that all kind of panned out and all my staff started to get like their unemployment money, and so anyway, I had to lay off a bunch of staff. Frankie's still online. We're still selling a lot. We're still doing drops. I have like a skeleton crew for Frankie. Still sewing as much as I can with like home sewers and a few people in the
yeah,
warehouse, but like it's all staggered shifts now. So like there's nobody seeing each other, or like very little human contact. Same with the warehouse. But again, like you said, I feel so blessed that like the support has been there and like we're still doing well and we're still functioning. And I feel really lucky like that I live here and I can like have my yard, like I kind of have this microcosm here of like my life, and I don't think I ever really appreciate it as much as I do
yeah, man.
right now, you know? Like I'm sitting like here in my yard doing this podcast, and it's fucking I've been out here kind of like working on things, doing emails all day, and it's nice, and I've honestly like spent a lot of time with my kids, which has been good. Um, and I think you got the right mentality from what I've kind of from what I
Thanks, man.
view anyway, because I think this is kind of a message to everybody. I do think a lot of people are kind of being a little bit naive, thinking the government's going to come swoop and save them.
Yeah,
I think people should be hustling right now. It's like whatever you can do to keep moving in your life and business, you should be, and adjusting and altering and maybe changing your business model, because it might be longer than we think before things turn around and get back to normal. We don't know, like the unknown. It's kind of like I had a talk with Miner, and he's big on Eckhart Tolle or Tolle, whatever the guy's name is, and it's all about the be here now. And it kind of helped me actually, because I was like, he went into all the philosophies, and it helped me because I was too stuck on the future. I'm like, what the fuck is going to happen? Like, how do I
yeah,
work now to get there? But I'm kind of like, now I'm kind of like, let it be. Just got to like go day to day, keep doing what I'm doing, keep working, be thankful, be grateful, and like live in it. And that's all we can do. But I do advise against like people who just think the government's going to bail them out. I think we all got to kind of keep moving in some direction. And yeah, hopefully this turns around quick.
for sure, man. And I think like again, I mean, my pap, like it's a blessing to be able to work like just period, like no matter what you're doing, and you can always refine that and do different things with it, like so it's cool. Like it's been nice for us to take a step back. This is our first year in business, so like I had to handle like things with taxes, and I had to handle you know like my first like re-inventorying for the upcoming year, and things that like would have been so difficult for me to get my mind behind when I'm in a shop every day and like products just coming in and coming out. I am thinking a lot long term, even in regards to like, bro, if we're allowed to open back up like at the beginning of next month, I'm not taking in product. Like I'll go out and source product myself, but like I don't want people coming in with like stuff constantly, like personally at least. I
Because
can
of
go and
like
find,
because of the possible transfer of germs. Is that what you mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like we're not, I don't think we're ready for it in 2 weeks. Like I honestly like, I mean, it will be hard for me not to reopen, but I think I'm going to try and remain as online as possible for a little while. Like, even if
Yeah.
they say we can, I just don't really like, I don't know.
Well, that's
You
the
know?
tricky thing, because now it's like we've kind of settled into where we are, and then it's going to take a whole nother push to get everyone's brains back into like normalcy, if it even is like advisable to do that, you know? So
Yeah.
it's almost more about like our state as people, where we're at right now is changed, and will it go back, and how long will it take to go back to what it was, you know?
You know what I
uh,
want to talk about this corona and like regarding like the product. I'm so intrigued on how it's going to affect the designer in streetwear. Maybe not designer,
well,
but
dude, it's going
street.
to affect designer, man, big
Yeah,
time.
yeah. But what about streetwear though? Because like I'm looking at Supreme's drops, man, and like everything's sitting, everything.
Oh, no shit, I haven't even looked.
Yeah, and
Well,
like
okay, so here's like, I don't know. Well, my whole mentality behind this since this started was like, people, luckily more people are still working than I actually initially had thought. So there's still
for
like a
sure,
percentage of people working, which is great. So that means more money flowing in the world, in the economy, which we need, everyone needs. But as like less people, as the percentage of people not working start to like get deflated bank accounts, that affects you and me. It affects everybody, because they have no money to spend on anything. And like, we are not a need business. We are a want business, right?
for sure.
Streetwear is a want business. It's not a need. You don't need that to survive. All you need to survive is your house, um, your food, and like your guess clothes, but like you can get the cheap
Yeah,
clothes and survive. You don't need like Supreme drop to survive.
no,
So those are the three needs, right? And we're obviously outside of that realm. So the beauty of it though is that we can adjust, and we can become a need if we like go from like our hype level of selling vintage to more like a base level of selling like cheaper vintage or thrift vibes. But um I think it's gonna, like, as like exactly that. If the people's money starts to deflate, and like that customer base that's buying Supreme is like, sure, there's a lot of rich people buying Supreme, but there's a lot of like average Joes that are spending like every last penny of their paycheck on Supreme as well. And
100%.
they don't have the paychecks, man. They're not.
And
Supreme's fucked.
not only that, but also those average Joes, a lot of the times, like they're buying that product to resell in a market that's not actually a resale market. And on top of it, the other market that I see on a day-to-day basis being in the shop is younger kids that are getting it from their parents, and their parents are not going to be giving them money to go and spend $100 on a Supreme shirt. So like, I mean, at least we're rolling around with our own money. And if it's my decision to spend whatever on a vintage shirt, I can do that. But like, vintage is kind of a different realm, because it's like, I just think that I've been like blown away by the community's response, and like how I feel like everyone's supporting each other in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you feel that way too with vintage?
Yeah, I think it's still moving really well. I think there's still a lot of money circulating. I think a lot of it though is there's a lot of movement of money right now in the vintage community to make money, right? So
Right.
there's like homeboys like, okay, I need to fucking make money. I gotta buy this shirt from you for 100. I know I can get two, or I know I can get 150, and then it's like, then someone's buying from him and flipped it. It's like, it's this weird like, it's it's very like intertwined. Everyone's flipping to make a buck here and there, and sure, there's people who are buying it because they want those things to wear. But I feel like the wanting to wear buys are getting less, and more so like buying to flip,
100%.
you know? So
100%.
it's like, it is right now, it's about making money. So if you can be like helping other people make money right now, you're in the money because they're buying.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Good point though.
yeah, so that's my thought on that. And like, just quick thing about the whole fashion industry as a whole, it's kind of crazy because apparently all the big corps, I heard this from like insiders, not inside, well, people I know who are in the big business of fashion, I've talked to, and they say that people had to pay for spring even though they're not gonna be able to sell spring. So like, we're talking big brands, right? They also had to pay for summer, which they might not be able to sell summer as well as they hoped, because people are going to be kind of broke. Who knows how many stores are going to be open? A lot of big brands have canceled fall deliveries.
Really.
That means that there'll be like a huge shortage of fall product, which is a huge opportunity for vintage sellers, because if we can fill the void in the fall of stuff that they usually would go to the mall to buy,
Yeah.
we're going to do that. And like,
Right.
as long as we can get the supply. And
Hey,
then you
come to
look at like,
Pittsburgh. Come to Pittsburgh, man. You'll find
yeah,
all the outerwear you need.
hell yeah. And then
Yeah.
you look at high fashion, like Italy was one of the worst hit countries from this whole thing. And all the factories in Italy, like we're talking, I mean, I don't know exactly how much, but like, is Louis Vuitton Italy now? Is like Versace
Yeah.
Italy? Like all these brands are Italy. They've been closed, and who knows that they got hit so bad that who knows when they're going to reopen it.
So sad.
So
So sad.
I think like we're still super early in the whole stages of this. We're going to see this unfold on the world economic scale for like the next couple years as it trickles down into all these different sectors, because you look at people in big business, like even my business that to me I think is fucking big, but I'm still considered a small business. We can like adjust fast.
Yeah.
Big business doesn't adjust fast. They're planning for like 2022 and like already putting money out for 2022. And then how is this going to affect them? Like, my friend works for Arc'teryx,
Yeah.
and I don't have like any crazy insider info, but when this shit happened, they shut down before anybody in Vancouver, and they're like, we're shut. We've like cut marketing budgets. We've cut any new hires. We've cut, like right, like the first week this shit happened, they were like, we know we have to conserve our cash because this trickle down is going to be gnarly.
Right.
And I think as this gets into like a bigger, as we go, we're going to see the effects, man. I mean, that sounds scary. The economy is going to keep moving. People have to keep moving on. Business is going to keep moving. It just depends on like where and how it will morph and change over the next year,
But don't you think like, like I told my dad about your business and like the upcycling and what you do and just honestly like what you stand behind. And I think that more and more like it pushes that to the forefront because bro, like you could have you change like you could have a windbreaker that you turn into a bag, or a windbreaker you turn into shorts, or whatever it may be. Like you can roll with whatever product you're given you have at a given time. You can change with the seasons, like whatever. So I think that more and more, like number one, I think I tuned into like a minor podcast or something talking about obviously like there's enough clothing out there to, for the world, for the rest of our lives or everyone's lives. But I think more and more like brands need to tap in and get conscious with the fact that like, hey, like we need to have this sector in our business because like,
Yeah.
bro, think about all that gear that is going to get wasted for this upcoming, spring, summer, fall, whatever. If they had a team in there that could rework that whatever they currently bought and do something dope with it and, do branding over top of it or like whatever, like,
Yeah, well, that's kind of why I knew about this, like, because I've been speaking to brands, and you're right. Like, these brands are going to want to pivot, and there's a huge opportunity for me because I'm set up to like take in this product, like exactly like you said, and do something with it, and also fill that void for fall that might be not there for people, right? Like,
yeah,
and I think it's good for other people to think about this too. Like, if we're looking at like brand, like say like a streetwear store, all the brands that streetwear store carries won't be getting shipments for fall. That streetwear store is going to be hurting. What are they going to do for fall? And what are they going to fill their racks with? Well, they could hit up a vintage seller and be like, let's do a pop-up this fall where like we fill our racks with vintage. Boom. Go find your local streetwear store guys and like spark up a deal, because they're all going to be looking to change their business models, and we can help. You know what I mean? All
for
of us
sure,
can.
for sure.
So I'm looking for the silver lining, which I think everybody should be looking for silver lining, not just in business of this, but also in like their day-to-day lives. Like you said, like do the projects that you haven't had time for, or like things that you wouldn't make time for on a regular day-to-day, or
Yeah,
and also in business, like how can you evolve and make your business function through this,
for sure. And on the flip end, man, like if you needed to just sit on the couch and watch a movie,
and just mentally, like, if it's a lot and it's overwhelming, don't overthink that either.
Totally.
Like,
I agree with that.
let's-
Totally.
like, take the time to, like, mentally check out if you need to. Like, this is not easy for people. Like, this is not everyone can just keep pushing, and, like, it's overwhelming for a lot of individuals, and that's totally normal and totally fine.
Totally.
That's
That
how I
first-
feel.
To be honest, that, like, I kind of mentioned it, but that first week, it was really tricky for me, man. I was like going through like
Yeah.
brain fuck, and I was like, I did do that. I just kind of tuned out, spent a lot of time with my family. I had to think things through. I had to like mentally adjust, and it was hard, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we should wrap it up here, man. The
I'm good,
last thing
man.
I kind of want to talk about, though, quickly, I want to commend you for buying. You own the building your store's in. I think that's fucking rad.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So more people should look into that. That's fucking G move. You did it. Not a lot of people do it. Who do you want to shout out? Anything you want to mention before we tune out?
Jace and Casey for sure. My girlfriend, business partner, Madison, that keeps the wheels turning in life in general. She's very appreciated.
Love
and
you,
then
Madison.
family, all my family in Pittsburgh, all my friends in Pittsburgh. I mean, like, I kind of just want to shout out, like, without going too deep in it, like, just the city for being able to bounce back and support each other. Like, the amount of messages that I get that are just like, hey, I want to support small business. Like, people that are going out and they're still getting takeout food from restaurants and supporting that. Like, that they may not necessarily have the money to always do so, but like they're doing their part to feed back in the community. Like, that's the most important thing, is for us to all support each other through all this. Shout out Ephes and Frank and Drew and for having me on here.
Thanks,
Appreciate
bro.
you. Yeah. But I really do mean that, man, though. Like, you definitely, like, I feel like when I met you in California, that just you have a lot of these things are very important, especially for kids to hear, because it's a wealth of information that you're sharing. So I appreciate you.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate you
Yep.
too, man. Thanks for coming on the show. We're going to end it there. Check out, you recently went heavy online. What's your website? Last thing.
monarchstudios.co. We're doing drops right now as I build out the website. So if you go on there, right now it's not a ton of items, but this weekend that's going to change. So if you see this, highly recommend you if I don't know if it's going to come out before.
Yeah, we'll
Sunday.
probably drop it won't be we'll probably drop Friday. So let's say go check out the website this weekend.
Bro,
It's gonna be popping.
Check the website out on Sunday.
Okay.
Tune
right.
in. Yeah. What I want to say. I want to say one more thing, but I forget. Just shout out Pittsburgh.
Shout out Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Black and yellow.
Black and yellow.
Okay, we're
My
stopping
guy.
it there.